Hello, good afternoon. How is everyone today? I'm just going to pop a quick comment. Oh, Mum, you're in first today. That's impressive. Hello, everybody. Just going to pin this little comment so that we all know what we're doing. How is everyone today? Hope you're all well. Come on, pin. There we go. Hello, hello. Welcome to Global Tea Break. How is everybody? I hope you're all well. It's a little bit grim out there. It was lovely this morning. I went for my run this morning. Oh, it was beautiful. Really lovely. It was a bit cold, but just lovely to go running in. I have to say hi to Danny and Dominique over in Canada, who sent me this lovely mug. Look at this. A Canadian Global Tea Break, which is so adorable. And there's a little boy Nash in the middle, who apparently would only sit for the photo if he had a cookie. So good morning. They watch me over their breakfast every day. Hi everyone, nice to see you. All right, well it is Wednesday, partway through the week, although nobody seems to know what day it is at the minute, so that's fine. That's fine too. So today we're going to be talking about a fantastic, really interesting character called James Barry. So I'm just going to wait a minute or two for a few more people to join us, and then we'll get going. Really excitingly, my friend and ukulele teacher, Lorraine at Learn to Uke, has put all of her courses online now, and she's also got a kind of free 7-day kind of learn a song in a day kind of thing going on her website. So have a little look at Learn to Uke. I have put it in my stories. But apparently guitar and ukulele sales have gone through the roof in the last couple of weeks. So clearly everyone's trying to take up a new skill. So and what is amazing, every night she runs a huge Zoom session, and I think it's been up to about 100 people on certain nights where everyone just rocks up and plays the ukulele together. It's really fun, and I'm doing it a couple of nights a week. It's great. Right, let's just have a little look. Okay, I think we're going to get going today. So I'm talking today about James Barry, and so when I put up a little question on my stories about what do you want to hear, or, what do you want to hear about, what kind of things are you up for, somebody asked for some LGBT history, and that is definitely on my plan, and we're kind of starting a little bit today with a sort of possible LGBT bit of history. It's not definite, but it's kind of, it sort of is and sort of isn't. So, and the reason I'm saying that is because the whole story is a little bit of a mystery. So James Barry is someone you may not have heard of at all. Really fascinating guy. He was a military surgeon, a very prestigious one. He trained at Edinburgh University, got his degree at 22 years of age, worked for a little bit at St Thomas's Hospital in London, and then actually went out to South Africa for the best part of 10 years. And became very high up in the military as a medical surgeon. He was known for being very bad-tempered, very foul-mouthed, really quick to anger, and was someone who, whilst he was an incredible surgeon, was very hard to work with and just didn't take any prisoners. He would properly, shout down people. In fact, Florence Nightingale, now bizarrely, last week I did Mary Seacole, and she was also in medicine. That's completely random that the two are together. I'm just sort of starting with the people I really respect and admire. But so Florence Nightingale, who popped up in Mary Seacole's history, knew James Barry too, and actually hated James Barry because on one occasion she'd been crossing the hospital square in the bright sun, and she'd only got a cap on her head, and I think they were supposed to have a kind of a parasol or a hood or something, and he shouted at her. He was on his horse, he shouted at her, humiliated her in front of absolutely everybody, and she hated him ever since, and everyone around apparently just stood there, was very gentlemanly about it, while James Barry had a massive go at Florence Nightingale, and so as a result she absolutely hated him. He was quite short, quite sort of delicately framed, and had quite a squeaky voice. So it was known as a bit of an eccentric with a squeaky voice, and he did not like it when people told him that. People would mock him for his voice. And on one occasion, he actually said, right, well, if that's the case, I'm going to challenge you to a duel. And he challenged one of his colleagues to a duel, went outside, did the duel, and shot him through the lung and killed him. He was someone not to be messed with. And after that, apparently, the mockings got a little bit less, as you could potentially imagine. He was someone who was very much interested in public health and kind of preempting illness. So when he was in places like South Africa, he was very interested in sanitation, good health, good lifestyle. He even set up a sanctuary for lepers, and he was very, very much involved with kind of preventing rather than curing all these illnesses that he was seeing and that he was treating. And it kind of got him into trouble a little bit with his superiors. They didn't really like that approach. He was even demoted at one point, arrested for it as well. So, caused some ructions, but by the end of his life, he was he was the Inspector General of the military hospital, so he was a bit of a big deal. I'm actually going to show you a little picture of him. Here he is. So you can see he is a very sort of, diminutive, delicate kind of looking man, and actually on his, I'm not going to show you his gravestone for the minute. We have another picture of him here in later life, looking, like a proper sort of Victorian gentleman, looking exactly the part. And here we go, another one with his servant and his dog as well. So that is James Barry. That's the guy we're talking about. Now, in 1865, he came back to the UK. He was suffering very heavily from dysentery, and it got the better of him and he actually died. Now, up until now, this story is fairly straightforward, okay? He's a very impressive guy. He's achieved a lot, but he, it was, fairly above board. However, after he died, the body was being laid out and a maid came in and was dressing the body, and the maid suddenly realised that James Barry was actually a woman. She not only noticed that James Barry is a woman, but also that she had given birth at some point in her life. She said, I've had 9 children, I can tell when someone's had a child. And nobody knew this. It was a complete shock to absolutely everybody. So who was James Barry really? Now, the thing is, there's a lot of mystery about James Barry for the very simple reason that James kept the fact that he was born a woman a secret. Now, what I'm going to do, because of course, it's always quite tricky when talking about sort of gender pronouns with people who maybe are born one gender and end up as another gender. So when James is James, I'm going to call him him, and when he is Margaret, I'm going to call her her. So James was born as Margaret Anne Bulkley in Ireland, Cork actually, at the end of the 1700s. And she was a very intelligent girl. She was very sort of headstrong. We don't know too much about her, but at one point she is said to have said to her brother, if I were a girl, I would be able to be a soldier. So clearly she had aspirations of getting out and doing something. And we don't really know why Margaret chose to go to Edinburgh University, but what we do know is that when she went, she was 19, and she decided that from that point on, she was going to dress and live as a man. Now, what we don't know is whether Margaret was transgender, whether she was intersex, or whether it was very simply knowing that in that period of time, women didn't have the same opportunities. And so she thought, well, the only way I can do this is to basically masquerade as a man. So that's what she did. She went off to Edinburgh, and she had a letter from the family friend, a guy called Lord Buchan, who basically vouched for James Barry. And James took his name from an uncle, the brother of James's or Margaret's mother, who was called James Barry, and I believe he'd died, so James took his name. And off he went to Edinburgh, and Lord Buchan wrote this letter saying, yep, I vouch for him. And James realised that he was obviously a lot, smaller, shorter than a lot of people. So he very, very cleverly said, look, he put his age down a couple of years, so that people would kind of say, oh yeah, you're a bit shorter, fine, you haven't got a beard, okay, that's understandable. And off he went to Edinburgh University. Now, when he was there were all kinds of rumours circulating that he was too young, that he was a child. And when it came to taking his exams, the university didn't want him to take his exams. They said, no, you're too young. So Lord Buchan had to intervene again and come in and say, no, James is the right age. That he's the right age. He's just a bit shorter, a bit smaller than everyone else. And he was allowed to take exams and got his degree in 1822. He then went off, joined the military, as I mentioned, and eventually went to South Africa. Now, this is where it gets quite interesting. So James made friends with a guy called Lord Somerset, who was the governor of the Cape out there at the time. He was out in Cape Town and made very, very good friends with him. And James was out there for about 10 years. And they were such good friends that James actually lived with Lord Somerset. He had a sort of, I guess you call it a granny flat, I suppose, on the side. And that's where James lived. And they were great, great friends. Whether or not Lord Somerset knew of James's secret or identity, and whether or not they had more than a friendship, we don't know. We probably will never know. But there were posters going up. There were rumours, spreading all over the place that there was something more going on between the two of them. And there were even posters going up accusing Lord Somerset of having had homosexual relations with James Barry, which of course was illegal at the time. So that was another kind of bone of contention, if you like. So we'll never know. But what happened is James sent to Mauritius in, I can't remember the date now, 1830s, no, 1828, I think, 1829. And a year later, Lord Somerset fell ill. And James actually came back to Lord Somerset's side and nursed him for 3 years until he died. So right there, even if they were just friends, there was a very, very strong bond between these two people. So we don't know what went on. We probably will never know. But it is definite that they were at least very, very good friends and very, very close to each other. Actually, it's funny because I mentioned earlier about him having a big fight with Florence Nightingale. And when Florence was told about James Barry and that after he died that, he was actually, originally a woman, she said she wasn't that shocked, but she did say, I found him to be the most hardened creature I ever met. So she never forgave him. She really, held a grudge against him. One of the interesting things is when the doctor issued his death certificate, it was a doctor who'd known him for quite a long time. And the doctor had issued the death certificate in the name of in the name of James Barry, being a man. And he was asked, did you not check? Did you not think whether he might actually be a woman? And he said something which was, for the 1860s, was very, very forward thinking. He said, do you know what? It's none of my business whether he was a man or a woman. He did then go on to say, I thought he possibly might have been a hermaphrodite. Now, we have no evidence for or against that. We don't know anything about that. That was just the doctor's supposition. But basically, the doctors just said, look, I don't really care. He knew him. He'd treated him for a variety of different ailments and this, that and the other. But he just didn't really care. And I thought that was rather lovely. And now his military files were locked for about 100 years. And in the 1950s, there was a lady called Isabel Ray who managed to get access to them and wrote a biography about him. But it was mainly the army stuff. She didn't have any of the personal stuff. And then a few years back, a guy called Michael Dupreez, who is also, incidentally, a medic from Cape Town, wrote a biography, actually really delved into the history behind James Barry and Margaret Bulkley and found out all the sort of family stuff. So there is, apparently, I haven't read it, but a really good biography out there of him. So the kind of the mystery still exists. Was he one of the first transgender people that we know of? Was he intersex? Was it just that Margaret thought, I don't have these opportunities and I want to do this, so the only way I can do this is to masquerade as a man? We will probably never know. James Barry is buried in Kensal Green Cemetery. This is his tombstone. As you can see, no mention made of Margaret Bulkley at all. Now, if you remember last week, Mary Seacole is also buried in Kensal Green. It's a very big cemetery. There's 7 different cemeteries around London they were called the Magnificent Seven when cemeteries started to become a bit sort of too busy and they started to bury people outside. Actually, there's potentially a day's talk that we can do on the cemeteries because there's all sorts of exciting things there. I might think about that. But yeah, so they're buried in the same place, different ends. Margaret Seacole is in the Catholic bit, James Barry's down the other end. But there's quite a lot of interesting things up there. And in St Paul's Cathedral, James also has this bust, which is in the crypt of St Paul's Cathedral. So those of us who are guides and guide there regularly, some of you may have noticed it, some of you may have never noticed it, but it is down there. It's a fantastic little bust, I think. So there we go. That is the story of James Barry. So that is why I've done a man on Women's Wednesdays, because there is a little bit of a sort of crossover there. So there we go. And I just find him as a fascinating story, and I think it's really interesting thinking about women who have had to think kind of creatively in order to get where they wanted to be. Mary Seacole did that. James Barry possibly did that. Probably at least part of the decision was being afforded different sort of abilities. So there we go. So that is it for today, really. What else do I have for you otherwise? Right now, some people have emailed and said, I'd love to come on a tour with you when all this is over. So what I'm going to do, and it'll take me a day or two to get it sorted, I'm going to put a thing on my website where you can buy vouchers to come on a public walking tour, and I'll put up maybe 5 or 6 different options. So if you want to do that, then you can. And again, I'll update the links on this website a little bit later too. But that's going to be on there in the next day or two. And also, if anybody would like a private history talk on anything you want really, then I'd be very happy to do that. I'm going to charge for that because obviously I have no income, so if anyone wants to do that, then that's another option for you. If you want to do, if anyone's needing help with, you know, teaching the kids or anything at home, then I'd be only too happy to do that. So there we go. That's it for me today. Thank you so much for coming. I will see you back tomorrow. Now, tomorrow, oh my goodness, I'm so excited. I have a brilliant guest coming on tomorrow. She's called Moira Cameron. She is not only a beefeater at the Tower of London, she is the first female beefeater in all of history at the Tower of London. And she's going to be popping on tomorrow to talk about what life as a beefeater is done, or is like, how she got into it, her military history, and giving us a few little secrets and insights to the Tower of London, because there are still things happening there, even though we're in lockdown at the minute. So that'll be at 3 o'clock with the phenomenal Moira Cameron. Let me just see, I think we've got a question here. Let's see. Are there any questions? Nope, I don't think so. Unless I've scrolled completely past one. Fabulous. Okay, lovely. Well, listen, I will see you tomorrow. Stay safe, stay sane, and yeah, we will chat to Moira at 3 o'clock tomorrow. Happy Global Tea Break, everyone. See you then. Bye.